Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Don't Argue. During the mid-90s, I found myself at an armored truck company, first as a manager, then left the company, and 5 years later returning as a regular worker. Armed with past experience, I'd occasionally challenge nonsensical instructions from management and dispatch. One day, the manager sternly ordered me to stop arguing and follow orders. 2 weeks later, my neck still buzzed with a call from dispatch, mistakenly asking if I'd picked up from Nordstrom's in Townsville. I was on a completely different route. They called the wrong truck. Despite being nowhere near, I replied no, due to my manager's command. They instructed me to pick them up now. Hours later, dispatch realized their error, demanding to know why I was in Townsville. I explained their instructions in my hands-tied approach. Then my personal phone rang. The manager. Angry, he inquired about the chaos. I detailed the mix-up and my commitment to his orders. In response, he curtly hung up while yelling, "Screw you." The company paid for their mistake with time and money, showcasing the tangled web of miscommunication and my steadfast adherence to "Yes, sir." The next story is called Independent. I live in a place where the job market leaves a lot to be desired. I once got a job where the employer was sham contracting me, meaning that he was unlawfully hiring me as a contractor when I was actually an employee. This meant that he could save out on not paying benefits. This was a very specialized industry, where finding a suitable replacement could take weeks. If someone was hired legally as an employee, then the employee would have to provide 2 months notice. Now, an independent contractor can set their own hours and quit whenever, correct? So I texted my boss. "Hi boss, as an independent contractor, I will be leaving by the end of next week due to some personal reasons. Thank you." Word came out that it took them 25 days to find a suitable replacement, and that I had cost them a few $1,000s in lost productivity. The third story is called Triple Check. I was a shift manager at a popular fast food chain. My supervisor decided to implement a new rule, requiring that all special orders must be confirmed with the customer verbally 3 times to ensure accuracy. While this policy might seem sensible on paper, in a fast food restaurant during rush, it was incredibly impractical. It slowed down the line, irritated customers, and frustrated the staff. I explained to my district manager the inefficiency of this new rule, but he was adamant that it be followed to the letter. The next day, during the lunch rush, I made sure every special order was confirmed 3 times. Even if it was something as simple as no pickles on a burger, I would repeat the order back to the customer 3 times. The result was chaos. Lines grew longer, customers grew more impatient, and the kitchen was backed up with orders. What made matters worse was that a large corporate catering order came in during this time, with many specific requests. Following the rule, I painstakingly repeated each part of the order 3 times to the person on the phone. It took forever. The district manager happened to be in the store that day, and he saw firsthand the pandemonium that this policy had created. He tried to intervene, but I politely reminded him that I was only following his instructions. Eventually, the corporate order was late. The customer was extremely upset, and we ended up refunding the entire order. The lunch rush was a disaster, and we lost quite a bit of money that day and wasted time and irritated customers. The next day, the district manager rescinded the policy, realizing that it was not suited for a fast food environment. The next story is called Docking Time. I once worked at Pets at Home in southern England. I loved working with the animals, and the other worker bees like myself were awesome. But the manager there was a mosquito in human form. Let's call her Abby. I would catch a bus to and from work that got me close enough to work that I would get there with a few minutes to spare. It was either that or I had to get a bus that was an hour earlier, which meant I would be waiting around for a long time, not getting paid, for no reason. One day, the bus is 20 minutes late. It got to the point where I started walking to work, knowing I'd be late, but I phoned ahead to let them know the situation. Abby told me I'd better get there on time. I don't know what she expected me to do. so I ran. Now I have literally zero stamina in me. I ran all the way to work. My lungs were on fire when I got there. Abby was in the office, doing the usual thing she did each day, which was sitting around and browsing the web in the back office, and taking occasional breaks to make the people doing actual work feel bad for taking a bathroom break. She gave me hell for being 2 minutes late, and actually changed my online rotor shift start time to 2 minutes later than it was before. I got an instant update on my phone of this. This jerk was petty enough to dock me 2 minutes of pay. I was beyond mad. Abby had a habit of keeping the workers late for all sorts of unfair and unpaid reasons. I made it my mission every single day to set an alarm on my smartwatch for the exact minute my shift would end. I would then leave whatever I was doing, whether I was on the tills, building cages or restocking the shelves. I would head straight to the office to grab my things and head home. My manager would object to my leaving on time. I would say in the most sarcastic tone I could that I was leaving because I'm not getting paid for the minutes I stay overtime. I kept this up until the day I left. That evening I was on the closing shift alone with Abby and one other worker bee. This was a rare occasion where Abby was actually helping us to do the unpacking before lockup for some reason. My fellow worker knew I was leaving exactly on time as I'd been doing it for months by then, and lots of others had been following my example. So when the clock struck, we said we were heading out. Again, Abby opposed and insisted we couldn't leave without helping unpack. She probably only really cared this time because she was actually doing work and would be left to do it alone, so she could lock up. To which I said, "You literally docked me 2 minutes pay once because I was late once." I stopped caring after that day. This is all on you. We are just sticking to the schedule. It was so beautiful and vindicating to say that, and no, she couldn't do a thing about it. The last story is called Hospitalized Boss. A few jobs ago, I worked for a huge corporation as a software developer. After a few years there, I became the project lead and successfully completed many projects that would net the company hundreds of thousands. One year, in February, we started a project with 8 people. A few weeks into the project, I was basically doing all the work by myself, because the rest of the people were fired or quit the job. What followed was over 60 hours of work for 9 months straight. I was still naive and thought that this would lead to a big raise in the upcoming performance review. 4 days before the performance review, my boss, Bob, had a medical emergency and had to be hospitalized for a long time. So I scrambled, desperately trying to find somebody who could give me a well-deserved raise. Eventually, my boss's boss got back to me and told me that there was nothing they can do for me right now because Bob has to approve that raise. I'd either have to visit him in the hospital or wait until he gets back. What they obviously left out was the window of getting a raise would pass by the time Bob would get back to work. A very convenient way for them to screw me over. What the company didn't know was that I knew Bob from university. He's nearly 20 years older than me and decided to get his master's degree when he was in his 40s. We had quite a few classes together and became friends. Well, as much as you can be friends with a guy with a wife, 4 kids and a crazy work schedule. So of course I visited Bob in the hospital. He was mostly fine, but had to stay for quite a few weeks for some surgeries. We spoke about the company for a while, and he told me he's gonna quit soon. I told him that I was thinking about doing the same if I didn't get a big raise. He said that we could try a big raise, but he's only allowed to give me X% each year, and anything above that usually gets automatically shut down by the higher ups. Then he pondered for a while, and eventually started laughing before shouting out, "Of course, the bonuses. We sometimes got a smallish bonus for a big successful project. The equivalent of a slap in the face in paycheck form when you consider how much the company earned versus what we got from it. Remember how the project was for 8 people? It was still set up for 8 people and billed as such to the customer, despite me doing all the work." Bob picked up the phone, called his secretary, and told him to file my performance review in a way that I get all 8 bonuses. It was roughly 27k in total, way more than I'd ever get out of a raise in the following years. A few weeks went by, and I thought for sure I was gonna get an angry call from one of the higher ups or the finances department at some point. But no, the year ended and I got a big fat bonus. I handed in my resignation letter shortly after. Bob fully recovered and also left the company a few months after me. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.